The 1980s was a magical time for me because a good portion of my grade school and middle school years took place during that time. As you know, if you've watched any, or in some cases all of my videos, you've always heard me say when I mention 1976, then you probably can guess why it is a good year for me. So as I get older and hopefully wiser, although my ex-wife would say otherwise, I just wanted to look back at my childhood and celebrate some of the things that made me remember the good times. Not that the 90s or beyond weren't good. Here are some things that I loved during that time. I'm sure everything is up for debate and you'll add other items to this, but these are the things that made my childhood memorable during the 1980s. The 80s for me was an awesome time for me to own and play with all those iconic toys. During that time, I moved 3 times from California to Illinois, back to California, all in about a 4-year span. Sure, I attended 3 different elementary schools and I had to make new friends 3 different times, but what didn't change was my taste in toys. Oh wait, those changed too. Never mind. Anyway, let's take a look at the toys that I grew up playing with from the late 1970s into the early 1980s until the end of the 1980s. Maybe you remember having them. Maybe some of them were really obscure toys, but these are the ones that I remember having and playing with. I don't know about you, but it always seems like the late 1970s toys were centered around Fisher-Price. I had the fire station as well as the farmhouse. And who remembers those iconic plastic Fisher-Price dump trucks? And of course I had the standard fare of toys like everybody else, the Lincoln Logs, the Tinker toys, and who could forget the Bristle Blocks. Aside from the kiddie stuff, my parents started to get me the hot toys of the day, including Buck Rogers, the Battlestar Galactica Cyclone Raider toy, the Tron Warrior with glow-in-the-dark staff. What kid during that time didn't have the green plastic army men? Before dinosaurs were a thing with Jurassic Park in the 1990s, I also had green dinosaurs. Me and my brother had the Fisher-Price Explorer, and of course, I'm sure every kid in the neighborhood had the Big Wheel, and ours was the Big Wheel Scorcher. My brother and I also collected Hot Wheels and Matchbox cars. Around 1981, the video game craze was in full swing, and I remember when my cousin brought one of these things home to play with. Around the end of 1982, we moved to Illinois, where we had to make new friends and played with other toys. My parents went out and bought the Atari 2600 for us at Sears, and the 2 games that we played the most was River Raid and Choplifter. We got caught up in the whole He-Man Masters of the Universe craze, but I wasn't as lucky as this kid. In fact, I actually had one figure, Trapjaw. The closest I got to owning Castle Grayskull was the Dragon Riders playset. My aunt from out of state sent this to us one Christmas. During the Cabbage Patch Kids craze, my parents didn't bother going to war with the other parents for the doll. Instead, they thought Care Bears was a better alternative. And if it weren't Care Bears, my brother was really into the monster trucks. Do you remember the Bigfoot monster trucks that were released in the mid-1980s? Of course, we were big fans of the G.I. Joe Real American Heroes. Aside from watching the TV cartoons, we loved playing with the toys too. We collected Transformer toys too, but my parents thought they were too expensive and opted to go with GoBots instead. I remember walking through the Woodfield Mall back in 1984, and they were having a toy demonstration in the center court. Let's just say we convinced our parents to get the Constructs toy for Christmas of that year. Also that same year, McDonald's started featuring a toy in their Happy Meals that would get us into collecting Legos. I would end up collecting the Castle Legos. No wonder I like history. Another fad that we had when we lived in Chicago was collecting stickers. I don't know if this was a regional fad or more of a nationwide thing, but at my school, everybody loved the scratch and sniff stickers, especially me for Grape. We would collect them in sticker books and trade with our friends. In 1985, I moved from the cold winter of Palatine, Illinois, to the warm, sunny weather of Yorba Linda, California. With that move, more toy fads and different friends. We played with Mad Balls. We started to collect those pink-colored wrestling figures known as muscles. At the same time, I was collecting those Transformers action cards, and of course, Garbage Pail Kids. And then I collected Mask. My mom would take me to the mall, and I would buy these at KB Toys. They were called Britain toys, and they were considered higher-end toy soldiers. We wouldn't get our first Nintendo until Christmas of 1987. By that time, we were a little late to the game. We briefly collected Voltron due to the cartoons that we used to watch. One of my favorite cartoons during that time was Robotech, and although they had toys, this is the closest to collecting Robotech was for me. My toy playing days were coming to an end. I was basically collecting baseball cards at this point, but the toys that dominated my childhood was actually Star Wars. I was collecting and playing with Star Wars toys beginning in 1979, and that would last up until 1985. Of course, I saw all of the movies in the movie theaters, but the movie that was the most memorable and to me was The Empire Strikes Back. Hands down, the best movie of the original trilogy. By late 1987, I was starting 6th grade and playing with toys was now an afterthought. I was getting into the typical preteen interests: glam rock, pop rock, Kiss FM, KNAC, baseball cards, and of course girls. Tracy, if you're watching, I had the biggest crush on you. As for my toys, they were put in boxes, some of it stored away. Most of them was donated to Goodwill or just given away. My mom got rid of all of my G.I. Joes and Transformers, but the one thing she didn't get rid of was my Star Wars toys. So I want to thank my mom for saving a little part of my childhood. Thanks for watching. So what do you remember about this place? Leave a comment or a suggestion for a future video below. And if you haven't already, hit that like button and don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Thanks for watching.
Yeah, bringing back memories from the good old days. That's super cool, man.